One big thing to be concerned about is E. coli. And here's the thing, you can't see it. You have to take a sample and get that sample tested to find out how much bacteria is in it. Now take a look from our Fox 23 sky view drone of the Arkansas River. After weeks and weeks of digging for information, I found that very little has actually been done to find out how much bacteria is in all this water. So we did our own testing to find out.
You need to be ready this Saturday because thousands of runners will be downtown and in Midtown. And they'll be over by the river next to the medical school. Some have seen things, others have felt things. There's even been reports of people hearing things in this room when it was supposed to be empty. So no matter who you talk to, a lot of people believe, even though you can't see it, something is here.
Like this ad for a comic book. The day this post went up, the poster started getting texts from a man named Ed with an out-of-town number, and he was asking for a cashier's check. Police say that it's very difficult for them to track down these scammers because many times they're out of the state or even out of the country. So here's some quick tips if you're trying to sell something. Meet in person, meet in a safe and public place, and then definitely just do your research. Live in downtown Tulsa, covering news that matters. I'm Katie Higgins, Fox 23 News.
If you look down here to my right, it's an incredible picture we're seeing right now. I'm trying to count the cars and the agencies out here. You got Tulsa Police, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, Collinsville Police, Skytook Police. Now, as we come back over here, I want to show you right behind this group of detectives and officers is that Tulsa Police cruiser that police say was taken from downtown Tulsa probably not even an hour ago. This has all happened within the last hour.
Investigators say that Michael Vance tried to disguise his stolen Mitsubishi Eclipse by covering it with branches and brush debris from this big pile back here. On top of that, investigators believe that Vance was actually camping out here for several days. Now, we talked with the landowner, a farmer. He says he came face to face with Michael Vance, the accused killer.
Ricky Spencer is only 19 years old, but he has a lengthy criminal background. We checked and we found last year he was arrested for possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. And take a look at this one. He was also arrested for having drugs with the intent to distribute.
And so do Osage County deputies who have had a long history with Stone. Take a look at what I found out when going through his criminal past. A lengthy history that includes a number of charges, including one for sexual battery, rape, and kidnapping. And just last year, he received a 5-year suspended sentence for failing to register as a sex offender.
And we're talking about a 5-mile radius here. Let me show you. Police say that houses inside this shaded area here have been hit 10 to 12 times. Now you're looking at Apache and Lewis down here north to 56th Street North and MLK.
I found more recent earthquake damage in this alley, but you can see I can't even get to those bricks because this entire area is blocked off for safety. But I can step behind my camera and show you exactly where those bricks fell from. Take a look right there and you can see at the top of that building is where those bricks started to come loose. And you can also see how dangerous it could be for anyone on the ground.
For the first time, the jury heard disturbing details about the 13 charges of child sexual abuse. On top of that, one charge of child pornography, all involving a man who prosecutors say parents would least suspect.
Right now, they're seeing the biggest increase in sale of AR-15s, specifically the receiver, because that's the serial numbered piece.
This election year, Tulsa County voters will be joined by 28,000 more voters than ever before. 18,000 of them will be first-time voters.
2 months have gone by since that 5.8 quake, and cleanup is still underway in Pawnee. And scientists have been tracking aftershocks since then. But something about last night's 4.5 quake was just a little bit off to them.
All of the trees won't start dying off instantly. It could take years before all trees are impacted. And that's where it becomes dangerous for people once they're all dead. That's because the trees, like this dead stick here, will be brittle and could fall on anyone or anything.
Venables hopes this piece of wood saves them from having to waste about $800 worth of their product. And I've checked, and according to the U.S. Geological Survey, Pawnee County has had 14 earthquakes just within the last 30 days, and all of those have been of magnitude 2.5 or greater. Reporting live in Pawnee County, covering news that matters, Morgan Downing, Fox 23 News.
Look right up here at the World War I monument for me. You see how it's leaning? If you look closely over to the left side, that's from that 5.8 earthquake. Luckily, last night, 4.5 earthquake didn't move it anymore or would have fell off. But inside the courthouse here, walk with me inside. I'm going to show you the cracks in here that also were from that 5.8 earthquake, but worse because of last night's earthquake. And right up here, we're going to look at this line that goes directly across this wall here. Look at that. This was initially put here from that 5.8 earthquake in September, but this is now bigger because of last night's earthquake.
This guy is no joke. At one point, he had more or around 5,000 open credit accounts in other people's names. And he downloaded all of this information off of something called the dark web. Now, it looks kind of like this. You have the surface web, which is what a regular person would use on a daily basis, social media, search engines. Then you have the deep web. That's where something like your academic records, medical records are stored that you don't want someone to get their hands on. But then you have the dark web. It's like this secret underbelly of the internet where illegal activity is taking place. But he could buy a lot more than that. For just $1.54, Jones could download your social, date of birth, and address. For $10.99, he could get everything from your credit card numbers to your email password. Jones says he spent $1,000 getting personal info, but he spent $750,000 with it in just 2.5 years.
The upper elementary school isn't far from downtown. They did see damage. It wasn't like this with bricks falling off of buildings, but they do have a lot of cleanup to do before students return to school on Tuesday.
And we're standing in front of one of those many buildings downtown that suffered damage, but you really can't tell much in front of the building. You can see just a little bit of debris on the ground. Not many bricks have been moved at all, except for this one brick from the top of the building that I found on the sidewalk, but it is a much different story on the other side of the building.
Earlier today, I launched the Fox 23 Skyview drone to look at the backside of this building that lost an entire wall. We took the drone up close and personal to take a look at exactly what happened, and all of the bricks slid off the backside of this building, revealing full, what looks like bedrooms all the way back to the front of the building. You can see a very open space there. That's some of the worst damage we saw, but we saw damage all around town. Usually it was damage from the top of the building that had fallen down onto the ground. You're seeing the view here as bricks tumbled and collapsed the awning there on this building, on one of the main buildings here in downtown Cushing. And here's a wide view. You can see just how much of the city was shut down.
Continue to see all of this damage around here, and as I said, a lot of the city is shut down, including the street we're standing on. We're on South Cleveland Avenue, and you can see the street is shut down, the power is still shut off. City Hall just a few blocks away, and that's going to continue to be the case while they assess the damage here for the next few days. Now, on Fox 23 News at 6, I'm going to break down exactly why this earthquake, even though not as strong as that record-breaking earthquake in September, why this one had more damage here in Cushing. I'll break that down for you on Fox 23 News at 6. Reporting live in Cushing, covering news that matters, I'm certified meteorologist Ben Walnick.
Well, right now we're on Highway 169 southbound coming up toward 71st Street, and it's been off and on. We've been really running into some traffic here, getting into a sea of brake lights, kind of depending on where you're at. No accidents so far, but with the rain we've had, at least so far, despite it being light, it has caused us to slow down from time to time. Right now, as you can see, things are flowing along okay right now at about a 50-mile-per-hour pace. We're going to keep you updated on just how the road conditions are looking here throughout the rest of the newscast. And I'll pitch it back to you in the studio.
The photographer is zoomed in at the top of this building. You can see at the top of this building, it's fairly steady there in the corner, but right in the middle of the building, we're seeing the majority of the damage. And back on the ground, what fell is this giant cinder block that weighs hundreds of pounds. I can barely move it, can't even lift it. You would not have wanted to be on the ground when this fell. So an earthquake safety tip, if you're outside and you start to feel that shaking, you don't want to be around the sidewalk anywhere near the buildings. If you come back out onto the street, we're not seeing any damage out here. So if you feel the shaking, you want to head away from any structures. in Cushing, reporting live, covering news that matters. I'm certified meteorologist Ben Walnick.
Detective Sid Colbert hopped on a bus here in Tulsa just 72 hours before those victims were killed.
Well, you guys, this part right here, the rubble in the streets, this is not the difficult part. The city says it's making sure that more of this does not come down from the nearly 50 damaged buildings.
It seems like every grocery store and convenience store at least carries Bud Light. So take this for example. It may have the same label, but here in Oklahoma, our beer is 3.2% alcohol by weight. Meanwhile, just across the border and in other states across the country, it's the same label, but it's 3.5%.
Police say Foreign was even going through banking information on the victim's laptop that he had out in the garage. She also stacked boxes full of financial documents next to the door, ready to carry out to her car.
When that RV crashed into Terry's home, you could see the sheetrock damage here, and it hit just feet from where Terry sleeps.
This restaurant was still open with people eating just on the other side of those windows. Look at this. This stop sign is one of the several pieces left behind, dragged for several feet, ending up somewhere on this parking lot.
Back in April, Fox 23 told you when this main sewer line near 101st and 23rd Street collapsed, causing a section of the road to be closed down for 3 weeks and costing the city nearly $160,000 in repairs and fines.
Spoke with a game warden and he tells me it's possible 2 things happened out here last night. He says either that buck was tracking a scent, or it's possible as it got close to the store's glass windows, it saw its own reflection, thought it was another deer, and attacked.
Lucky enough to be on top of the roof of the BOK Center. We actually were walking in and heard Billy Joel getting ready for his concert tonight with sound check. Pretty incredible there. What you can see behind me is the downtown skyline and the moon. And just a few minutes ago, the Fox 23 Skyview drone up above the downtown skyline and the BOK Center getting ready for that concert tonight. You'll want your jacket. Here's the forecast. Those temperatures will drop down through the 50s. And by the time you leave the concert tonight, in the 40s. And there's a little bit of a wind tunnel there on Denver, so it's feeling a little bit more windy, a little bit colder. You will definitely want the jacket, both going in and absolutely as you leave the concert tonight. Hopefully he'll be on stage past about 10 o'clock. I'm hearing maybe at least out there for about 2 hours tonight. Now, there is going to be some big changes here in the forecast as we head into tomorrow as well. Back in studio, Chief Meteorologist James Aylaw. We're going to feel the effects of this cold front.
This picture was taken right here where I'm standing 70 years ago when this building behind me was still under construction, and although the outside still looks the same, the inside just went through a major renovation after the roof collapsed 4 years ago. I learned they gutted this entire building, so everything inside is new. The only thing still standing from the 40s are the outside bricks that stood like a shell when the roof collapsed.
With a flip of a switch and a press of a button, police say Bayless could run the hose out his window into another gas tank, giving himself the ability to steal gas from other vehicles without ever leaving his front seat.
At Jenks, they disagree. In fact, before the test changed, Jenks had a great pass rate. 85%. But since the test changed, that number went way down to about 30%.
Last year, Coda was playing basketball in his driveway when suddenly his vision went from this to this.
We've had pets and police say drug proceed receipts and also a log helped to prove their suspicion even more that this guy was selling drugs.
Records say that Godsey is a non-toxic, well-appearing 59-year-old male in no apparent distress.
In the last 45 minutes, I got an update from troopers and learned that male truck driver should be okay. She's in the hospital, but thankfully will be okay. But let me show you, you can still see the marks on the ground there on the road and even where the truck was laying on its side right here in the grass. And families living in these houses were left in the dark for hours.
Fox 23's JJ Burton is the only Tulsa reporter in Oklahoma City right now. He's live at the airport with the new details that he just got from police. JJ.
Tiffany, police say that the victim, Michael Winchester, was down here walking to the employee parking lot to go home, and they say the suspect, Lloyd Bowie, was all the way up there and on the 4th floor of the parking garage. That's about 50 yards away. Police say they believe Lloyd had a rifle, and he used that rifle to shoot the victim. Now, this all happened because...
On top of that, you may remember this silver and turquoise jewelry taken from Post. Police estimate that it's worth about $18,000, and as you can see, they were only able to recover 3 pieces.
One thing discussed is how to bring everything together. They plan to do that by connecting some of the most historical sites, like this old fort, to this national cemetery, one of the town's most toured sites.
Peters feels like that suspect was targeting several different cars within his apartment complex, targeting anything he could find.
Officials at the shelter tell me they do get donations for things like large dog food, but they also need donations in puppy food.
And as troopers and Washington County deputies worked and searched through the brush in order to find this guy, a wrecker took away the car.
The new state law is all about safety. Employees tell me often they're jumping on and off of these trucks so fast with so much noise in their ears, it's hard to tell exactly what's behind them or even what's right in front of their face.
Police say when the suspect left the food mart here, he showed up at this Walgreens about a mile away 2 hours later and robbed it. Then 30 minutes after that, police say he went 2 miles south and hit this Dollar General.
Investigators arrested the man in Oklahoma, but they believe he's connected to crimes in 7 states, from Florida to Colorado to Idaho.
Spots of flames like this were all over Bellstar Canyon Friday morning. We talked to the man who lives in this house. He tells me those flames were just yards from his front door.
There are more than 2 million lights here at the Rama Park, but they say their goal, instead of putting more lights up, was actually to convert their old lights over to LEDs.
That fire out here is still smoking. Keep in mind that explosion happened Tuesday morning around 6:30, and if you look out here, you can see the thick black smoke still coming out of the top of the building. Then down to the left, look at all of the damage. Several collapsed buildings out here. Just about everywhere you look out here, there are these aerosol cans all over the ground. Every now and then we hear a loud popping. It's these cans inside that building. Some of them are still exploding. I'm told this fire could still go on for a few more days before they get everything here put out, and there's a good chance all of Neodesha will not have water for Thanksgiving. That deer even tore a sink off the wall. The owners say they'll have to replace all of the plumbing in the kitchen and likely make more than $5,000 in repairs.